It starts with a headline. A 7-year-old is attacked by a pack of stray dogs. Public outrage floods the news cycle. Let's go to Assam. An elephant tramples a farmer while foraging for food in a paddy field. Two incidents, hundreds of kilometers apart, but one question at the core: what's the right thing to do? In ethics, this is not a new question. It's an instance of a broader dilemma, and the dilemma involves human-animal conflict. From Aristotle's Politics to contemporary debates on the Wildlife Protection Act, philosophers and lawmakers alike have wrestled with how far our moral community extends. Do we protect only human welfare, or do we recognize animal rights also? In today's episode, we will trace 5 major ethical lenses, from utilitarianism to environmental ethics, to understand the contours of human-animal conflict. By the end, you will see that deciding what's right, it's not about law or policy. It's about the values you choose when principles collide. But this isn't just about 2 headlines. It's about a deeper issue involving human-animal interface. Stray dogs in Delhi, elephants in Assam, leopards in Maharashtra, different species, different states, but the same moral pattern. First, an encounter, then an injury or a death. After that, the policy cycle kicks in. Media outrage, public fear, and the demands for immediate action. In ethics, such situations are called moral emergencies, situations where harm is imminent and the space for reflection is small. Here's the problem. Our actions in these moments, in the heat of the crisis, often reveal more about what we value than what we know. And that's why these aren't just policy decisions, they're moral decisions. In India, these questions have reached the highest levels. The Supreme Court, in multiple cases on stray dog management, has tried to walk a line. The line between public safety and a constitutional duty under Article 51A G, that is to show compassion to all living creatures. This is where philosophy meets governance. Because when a child is bitten or a village is threatened, the law alone doesn't tell us what to do. We turn to our values, so the real question becomes, what kind of moral compass do we follow? Do we act for the greatest good? Do we uphold a duty? Do you defend rights or protect the ecosystem as a whole? To answer that, we need to look through each lens and see how they handle the same conflict. Let's begin with a lens that puts outcomes above all else, utilitarianism. It starts with one simple rule: choose the action that creates the most good and the least harm for the greatest number. When it comes to human-animal conflicts, that means comparing the harm animals cause to the harm done by stopping them. If dogs on the street injure people, especially children, that's harm. If elephants destroy a season's crops, families can lose their livelihood. From this view, if removing or relocating animals prevents greater suffering overall, it could be justified. But here's the problem. What counts as greater suffering depends on whose pain are we including. Do we weigh human lives above animal lives as a rule? Or do we count the stress of a dog in a cage or an elephant in chains as part of the same calculation? For Jeremy Bentham, one of utilitarian's founders, the species doesn't matter. He asked only one question: can they suffer? If the answer is yes, their suffering counts, just as ours does. And suddenly the whole equation changes. It's no longer about protecting humans at all costs, but about protecting all beings who can feel pain as much as possible. Now that's the strength of utilitarianism. It gives a framework to minimize total harm, but the weakness, it can turn moral choices into math problems, where individuals become variables, So what if we refuse to reduce beings to numbers? What if some actions are wrong, no matter how much good they might achieve? For that, we need to turn to deontology. So what if we refuse to reduce being to numbers? What if some actions are just wrong, no matter how much good they produce? That's the foundation of deontology. Deontology says, follow moral duties and rules no matter the outcome. Philosopher Korsgaard, building on Immanuel Kant, argues that animals are conscious beings with their own good, a life that can go better or worse for them. That means they are ends in themselves, not tools for human use. From this view, capturing or killing an animal violates its dignity, even if doing so might protect humans. In Indian context, this aligns very well with Article 51 AG of the Constitution, which says the fundamental duty to have compassion for all living creatures. It also echoes the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960, which prohibits unnecessary pain or suffering even in government-directed actions. But duties can collide. When a village in Kerala faces repeated stray dog attacks, the state has a duty to protect public safety, but also a duty to protect animals from cruelty. Similarly, in elephant conflict zones, forest officials must balance their duty to safeguard human life with the duty to preserve and protect wildlife under the Wildlife Protection Act. Deontology often forces a hard choice. Which duty do you break when real-world conflicts won't let you honor them all? Its strength is moral clarity, a refusal to sacrifice dignity on the altar of convenience. But its weakness, it gives no formula, I repeat, no formula for choosing when duties clash. So if neither consequences nor abstract rules can fully resolve these dilemmas, maybe the answer lies in character. Not just what we do, but who we are when we act. For that, we have to turn to virtue ethics. So if neither consequences nor rules can fully guide us, maybe we ask a different question. What would a good person do? That's the core of virtue ethics. It doesn't start with laws or outcomes, it starts with character. Philosopher Rosalind Hursthouse applies this to animals. What she says is, if compassion, fairness, and courage are virtues, then our treatment of animals should reflect those qualities. In an Assam village where elephants raid crops, compassion might mean guiding them back to forests instead of using explosives or electric wires. In a city facing stray dog attacks, practical wisdom might mean implementing large-scale sterilization and vaccination under the animal birth control rules, not mass killing. This compassionate approach perfectly aligns with the spirit of Article 51 AG and with community-led initiatives like the Kerala street dog adoption drives and Maharashtra's elephant early warning systems. But virtue ethics has a limitation. It doesn't give a clear policy blueprint when virtues collide. If protecting a village's children requires force against a leopard, is compassion for humans more virtuous than compassion for animals? Virtue ethics says it depends. It depends on the whole character of the decision, your motives, your wisdom, and your willingness to bear some cost to do what is right. Now the strength. The strength of virtue ethics is it keeps humanity in equation. It asks us to be better people, not just better calculators. But the challenge, for law and governance, virtue alone isn't always enough to make hard policy choices. And so some philosophers argue that we need moral lines that can't be crossed, no matter the character, no matter the outcome. That's the claim of animal rights theory. What if some things are simply wrong, no matter what the outcome is or how virtuous the decision maker may be? That's the starting point of animal rights theory. It begins with a bold claim. Some things are wrong to do to animals, even if humans benefit out of it. This is philosopher Regan, and he argues that many animals are subjects of a life, being with memories, preferences, the capacity to suffer and flourish. That gives them inherent value. Value they have simply because of what they are, not because how we use them. And if they have that value, they have the rights. And rights are negotiable. From this perspective, killing a stray dog after an attack or capturing a hungry elephant is still a violation because their right to live is not ours to take. Philosopher Gary Francione takes it even further. Animals are not property. Any use of them for human ends is morally wrong, whether it's a laboratory experiment or an elephant in a temple procession. The implication is radical. Even well-meaning use of animals, if it treats them as tools, is a form of injustice. The same debate plays out in India too. The Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act recognizes animal welfare but stops short of recognizing animal rights. The strength of rights theory is its moral clarity. It draws bright lines that can't be crossed. But the challenge, when rights clash, say human right to safety and animal rights to life, the theory offers no clear resolution. Still, it forces a crucial question. What moral lines will we refuse to cross even when crossing them might solve the problem? But what if we widen the lens further, even further, beyond individuals, beyond rights, to the balance of entire living system? That's why we turn to in the final lens, that's environmental ethics. What if we zoom out even further? Not just individual rights, not just duties, but the health of the entire system. That's the lens of environmental ethics. It doesn't ask what's best for humans or even what's best for animals. It asks what's best for the ecosystem as a whole. That's why we bring in philosopher Aldo Leopold, and he called this the land ethic. He said we are members of a community that includes soil, water, plants and animals. The right action, he wrote, is the one that preserves the integrity, stability and beauty of the entire biotic community. From this view, human-elephant conflict isn't about bad elephants or reckless villagers. It's a symptom of something deeper, habitat loss, a broken link in the ecological chain. In India, this thinking shapes real policies like elephant corridor identification projects and the eco-sensitive zones declared under the Environment Protection Act. The strength of environmental ethics is its systems thinking. It sees the forest and the trees. But the risk, it can sometimes overlook the rights and welfare of individual animals in service of the whole. For example, if saving a wetland ecosystem means culling an invasive species, the environmental ethics may justify it, even if it causes suffering to those animals. So this lens forces one more question. And the question is, do we value the life of whole system above the life of individual members? And now with all the 5 lenses in hand, let's see what happens when they're tested in a real-life crisis. It's 2 a.m. A wild elephant has entered a village in West Bengal, damaging huts, threatening lives. The forest department, the local panchayat and villagers must act fast. So what do? Let's put the 5 lenses to test here. Let's start with the utilitarians. They will say drive the elephant away by any means necessary. Use firecrackers, use electric fences, as long as that prevents greater harm to the majority. The next lens, deontology. They'll say don't harm it. The Wildlife Protection Act gives us legal protection. We all have a duty to uphold its dignity even if it slows down the rescue. The third lens, virtue ethics. They will say act with compassion and courage. Protect both villagers and the elephant. Use measures like trained elephants like kumkis to guide these elephants back into wilderness. The next lens is the animal rights theory. They will insist that elephants have a right to live free in its habitat. The real violation was clearing the forest land, not the elephant's entry into village. Now the last lens, the environmental ethics. They will say this is a symptom of a broken ecological balance. So what's the solution? The long term is to restore the corridor. The short term is to act in a way that least disrupts the ecosystem. This decision matrix shows every lens leads to a different right answer. The law, philosophy, and policy can pull in different directions. No single framework resolves it all, which is why human-animal conflict remains one of the hardest ethical challenges in governance. So what do you choose? 5 lenses, 5 ways to decide what's right. But in the real world, you won't have time to consult Aristotle, Bentham, or Leopold when an elephant is at your doorstep or a pack of dogs is in the street. You will act, and in that action you will reveal your hierarchy of values. Do you prioritize safety for the many, honor your duties to all living creatures, act from compassion and courage, stand on the principle of rights, or protect the integrity of the whole ecosystem? For an Indian policymaker, these are not abstract questions. They live in the space between Article 48A, the Directive Principles to protect and improve the environment, and Article 51AG, the fundamental duty to show compassion to all creatures. They appear in Supreme Court orders on stray dog sterilization and in debates over Jallikattu and in elephant corridor clearances. The challenge is this: whatever you choose, you're shaping a world where humans and animals will live together or apart. So long, happy learning.